Welcome to Spirit Baby Radio. I am your host, Kelly Meehan, a citizen of the universe and a passage keeper and mentor for our new Earth children. I believe we are entering into a new psychic structure of our reality, and it is meant to embody deeper trust and ways into solid self-love and fearless integrity. Our new world energy of spirit babies needs us to consciously create within conception, trust pregnancy, and have freedom to birth and parent from innate wisdom. This is Spirit Baby Radio. Welcome to episode 197, October 2024. Grieving with the Wise Heart. Miscarriage, stillbirth, and infancy loss. All things grief, all things death, all things love, all things life. I welcome you. It is a chilly, golden leaf out my window kind of day with a bit of sun and cloud. And many have already tuned in and know not only am I losing my voice now over the month since I moved into a dry climate of such great beauty, I am now out of California, in Oregon specifically, and I'm in a beautiful adventure town where I have lava rock in my backyard. I have hiking trails just seconds away into the gorgeousness of nature, and I am tuning into nature. You can join me at Instagram if you want to connect more with your own healing earth energy body at Earth Medical Intuitive. And I'm sharing videos and more insights around vortexes and nature's conversations and how to heal your body as a sovereign soul and as an intelligent cellular body that can heal with the earth as you are so connected to it. And that is at Earth Medical Intuitive. And that is one full word. And I was just inspired. And you'll hear me talking more about medical intuition in that space and just across my work as I do offer that in more private sessions with the conception and birth loss journey specifically. Maybe not so much in pregnancy. It's typically not necessary unless there's some massive medical or deeper emergency. And I've used that medical intuitive abilities also for children readings or children that aren't well. And I always have space for our children. And notes from a spirit baby medium. Everything you need to know about spirit baby communication. I'm going to share some chapters. I do have chapters that go into birth loss. And this episode, is it hard to say that I was inspired? I am moving through my own grief of leaving state, grief of being pushed, grief of the loss of my father now, grief of now having my family, my brother living in the space. There's so much grief, and there's such a deep realization around grief. And over the past weeks, even the past 2 weeks, I'm meeting a lot of women that come into the space in private space, not just in my big program that's launched now for this end of the year, 2024, but also in private spaces. There's grief of loss of time, of infertility. Where's my baby? There's grief in actual miscarriage, feeling the sorrow, the anger, the sadness, the confusion, the denial. And there's grief in stillbirth, especially in a level of labor. And stillbirth is very common to go through labor and birth. And so there's like another deeper layer to that, right? And then infancy loss, child loss. And I have had the heart space to work with toddlers and preschool age children that have passed on, and bringing a deeper healing of awareness with grief for the family, bringing a deeper healing awareness of their child of light, who is in its most deepest expression of communication. And if we can just remember, is that energy is energy. And again, I'm never minimizing that connection, that you want to hold your baby in your arms. You want to feel that skin to skin contact. You want to kiss, you want to share in memories and experiences. And this is why life is so valuable, right? Because once that body, that cellular body does not want to work, or it is time, then it is gone. It's not here. And then you're left with the soul, spirit, and energy. And this is where mothers and fathers become hopefully mastery and self-expert of your own connection of communication to continue to bring in the healing and the transformative connections that you're meant to bring forward together. Remembering on this journey as you are healing all the different parts of you, your heart is just split wide open, the pain, the ache, the overwhelm, the confusion. There's so many different experiences to have, and not one is the same. But we can speak about the commonality of grief, right? Grief takes us into so many different directions. And even my own, as Francis Weller would say, we are all in apprenticeship with grief, which is like, I love this. It's not a quote you will see. It is a class that I took during the pandemic that he offered so graciously. It filled up quick. And when he said that, it really stuck with me, that and many other things that we are. Do we become a grief expert at some point? I don't know, actually. Like, what does that mean? Because I know in my own grief spaces that sometimes I miss the cues of my own body, and I realize, wow, it's not always just being sad. I noticed for me, just recently, I was eating food all day, and I'm like, not sick. I'm like getting over all this stuff in my throat and nose, and I suddenly felt like things didn't really taste the same. It was like bland, muted. And it reminded me of when I was in deep levels of grief, is when I looked outside, it's like I couldn't see the colors. I couldn't see the textures. I couldn't, kinesthetically feel my environment the way that felt normal to me. My realization is like, oh, look at this. Like grief can come as a tastelessness. Maybe the smells feel different. Maybe there's a coziness that takes in, and a weepiness. For me, a weepiness, an appreciation, even looking at, especially my children, because my children bring in a sense of innocence and joy and presence and forgiveness and compassion and just honesty. Find myself weeping one moment to my friends and just sharing the sadness that I feel. And then moments later, maybe going on a walk and breathing the air and dancing on the trail with my little one and just laughing about it, just being silly, not because we had to, it just felt spontaneous. And then coming home going, oh, let's watch a movie, let's eat popcorn. It's, all these different spaces to explore in the presence of grief. And wouldn't that be great if we can just share that more with people? Like, I'm in the presence of grief right now, and I need a certain tenderness and level of self-care because we do. How loving is that for ourselves to open up the space and hug ourselves? This is why I really love, I notice what comes up a lot in session space with grief with others is embodiment practices. Because in embodiment practices of either dance, movement, breath, or even just listening, holding your body, feeling your skin, like really connecting with the different parts of your physiology and your emotional connection to that physiology can create a healing response. It does require a pause, right? A quietness, a settling in to be attentive to it. And I really do see the simplicity when we are in the throes of deep levels of grieving is what can you do to nurture your body? Do you need a warm bath? Do you need just a quiet time of hand holding with a partner, with a loved one? Do you need a sweet cup of Tulsi rose tea, which is like my favorite? I should advertise them. They're so great. It just wakes you up. It brings the warmth in, the rose, the connection of love, of floral, like floralness, floral stuff. Is it, a walk, a stroll through nature, a hanging out with close friends and just laughing, just being, but knowing that the grief is there. Again, its presence is there and there's no need to push it away. I don't know where you are on your journey. You could be just in a current state of shock, right? Because when a current loss happens, there is a definitely fracture and fragmentation and shatter of connection. Like you have, especially a birth loss, a miscarriage, and this physiologically, it can be very physically painful as well. And there's fear and there's energy in there, but you're just animalistically, just primally listening to what your body wants from you. And sometimes you do have to intervene in that, and that's hard. And other times you're free birthing on your own, this potential of life that now is no longer with you. And I do have past episodes that go deeper into miscarriage, stillbirth, even termination, to look at the deeper energies and messages. You can go back, and I'm sure there's a way to search that episodes. But I want to talk about the current, energy of grief and death within this space. And I know as I share more about this, it changes. It changes all the time because I evolve. And when I evolve and I see deeper things, then I get to get a different perspective of my own journey with my own relationship with grief and the relationship with others. There's a connection, right? We're always deeply connected in some way, especially in session space. It's not, okay, I'm not a robot of nonstop. Like, let me see people every single day. Let's get them out. Let's get them done. I do feel like as my energy changes, it's very select on what frequency space I share with others that are just being called. And my session space till the end of this year is more limited. I always say people to email me if it's like, I need a space, I don't know where it is. And spiritbabymedium@gmail.com. There's a time and energy for everything, I feel. And we are in our own self study, right, of healing and what we bring forward. The grief spaces are deeply calling to me this year. And there's a sense of, I don't want to say comfort in it, but sometimes there is. It's a normalcy. I'm feeling the normalcy of it. I'm not feeling the shock in this moment. And maybe it's because it's the palpation of moving and flowing with the relationship of grief. As I was saying earlier, maybe it's new, you've had this miscarriage, and it can be very traumatic, especially physiologically with blood loss and not knowing if you need physical help or you can birth on your own. And there's a process to that. I feel like a sister motherhood of other women holding the energy and love of others to bear the stories and the connections of their own hearts with loss, to give to that space where, remember, the womb has life and it has death. And then we go into stillbirth, which is, again, it's a whole other level of later loss, because now there's this, at 40 weeks, there is a full baby, and that baby is being birthed, sometimes through vaginally, sometimes cesarean. And then what? The shock, the torment, the confusion, the self-abuse, actually. Like, why is this happening? Nobody knows. My baby doesn't want me. And it's so much more than that. And it's hard to understand that the sovereign soul has their own journey. It really is. It's valuable. The children of light, they're on their own mission, and it doesn't make sense. But if you've had an early loss, a later loss, you feel a lot of different things coming through and up, right? I've worked with many of women, many of couples in this space specifically. And I do feel like there are different spaces we all get to hold together. And I want to also go into infancy loss a little bit more, like more extreme. Baby's here. You birthed your baby, they're earthside. Maybe there's a genetic anomaly. Maybe there's nothing wrong. And you're questioning what happened. Why would this happen to a perfectly beautiful present baby and a wanted connection? And feel the grief in that, feel the love, because it's the truth. It's an experience, it's happened, and you can transform the energy through for your own psyche, for your own space in the world, and your time is very valuable in that. And I'm not going to, again, pretend it's easy. When I've had private sessions and others reaching out with really intense stories where I will continuously work with sometimes more on that somatic grief level and spirit baby mediumship therapy, we'll call it. How to continue to transform and be in the energy of healing is very unique for each person. It's not an overnight experience, right? I'm thinking of these few different working with a 2-year-old that passed, just went to sleep and that was it. And then a 3-year-old, it's like went to sleep, and that seems to be a common theme in my energy. Or sick children, will they make it? Heart issue, a lot of heart stuff in the past years with babies. What is that? Do they feel the heartache of the world? Is it the connection to the lineage? Like, what else is heart? We think of babies and children like, why aren't they healthy? They need to come into healthy, sovereign, powerful nature connecting bodies. And sometimes we can only do so much for that, right? You start to, try to offer the natural birthing, less intervention, because baby experiences everything that you experience when there's intervention. It's hard for some babies, right? It's not about guilting, shaming, or fearing, but it's just truth. And then what then is next? The health of a baby. Like, what do they need and not need to survive and to thrive? And the nourishments and foods and formulas versus, nursing and all these different pieces like coming together of creating, the best in your own consciousness, in your own frequency, because that's what it comes down to. Not to be competition of the best consciousness, but just coming back to nature, right? It's like that's what we do. I'm going to just share a little bit from my book, Notes from a Spirit Baby Medium. I do have in the end chapters 9 and 10 specifically on miscarriage and stillbirth. And an area I've worked extensively in is why it made the book. I feel like anything that makes the book is my extensive area of anecdotal experiential sessions over 11 years. Chapter 9, Miscarriage, the Afterlife of Spirit Baby, Part 1. This came to me one day when I created my Spirit Baby group. I have one on Facebook. I thought the birth loss community is a very unique heart community to me, and it needs its own. It needs its own group. And so I created the Afterlife of Spirit Baby, felt like that's what it was going to be called. And I do call children, especially stillbirth and infancy lost later, I call them the children of light. Some will say you can call them spirit baby, baby spirit, child spirit, but I like calling them the afterlife of spirit baby, the children of light. You can do what you want with that. Because to me, there's a reverence for me and an honoring to be able to step forward and see if these children want to even speak to me. I can't go in and make children speak to me, but I set and tone my energy to hear that children, especially through stillbirth loss, their energy and frequency is very strong. It's not a lived earth life, and it's a very different consciousness and where they get to be and how they get to communicate and connect with you. So chapter 9, Miscarriage. I'm going to read you just the opening. I do have a beautiful quote. Maybe I'll read that beautiful quote. You are a child of the universe, a soul star of the night sky. So love yourself as you are, sacred creatress of cosmic love. And that's by Madeline K. Adams, Soul Star Children of the Universe. It's a very beautiful book that I was gifted through a client and her mother. I mean, this is a gorgeous book, and she's a few of them. It's poetry for the goddess soul, really. So I'm going to read more of the opening of chapter 9. She was a fun and fiery spirit, but not ready to come. Her brother, who was calm and joyful in his spirit, would be next. But then something changed, and he was not ready yet. This mother's experiencing her multiple losses, which left her with sadness, heart disappointment, and uncertainty. Her spirit children want her to understand that alignment is coming, and a depth of healing would soon be guiding her. And that is the opening to that chapter. If you are in the experience of miscarriage, I even talk about the kinds of miscarriage, right? There's so many different kinds, and every miscarriage counts, by the way. And let me see what else I want to. I talk about spirit baby communication and miscarriage. It's a little paragraph on that. What does spirit baby say about miscarriage? Of course, the reflective questions I put in here are the questions I hear. Did I do something wrong? Why did my baby leave? What does my spirit baby need to be born? And I go into that in many paragraphs. And why can't I hear or sense my baby after the miscarriage? Because that could feel like that could be you. You could say, you know what? I had a miscarriage, a stillbirth. I can't hear my baby. What's happening? And I'm going to read you more of these bold points. Why isn't my baby ready to be born? How do you welcome your baby back after miscarriage? And I do have let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. I have a 6 bullet list of possibilities, and you are a unique being. There's not one reason. And when I say that, it's not like maybe it's a past life energy, maybe it's a lineage energy, maybe it's the partner's energy. It's not like, okay, everybody has the same, path. The other bullet point is, how do you open up to spirit baby after a single or multiple loss? And then I have here 5 tips for working with spirit baby communication post miscarriage. I also talk about, okay, this is a big area, medical issues, sicknesses, and disabilities. I put some energy to that because I have worked in that space. And remember, this book is encompassing of the frequency of spirit baby communication, where I can connect with that frequency, again, specifically. And I go into surrogacy, gestational carry, and adoption. Adoption and spirit baby communication is in here as well. Same chapter. Awakening to the wholeness, let your spirit guide you. And that comes into the final ending of the chapter, where I do write out a miscarriage meditation, but you get a QR code. This is your bonus, and a web link in there. And it takes you to a meditation specifically for spirit baby communication and miscarriage loss. I want to share chapter 10, Stillbirth, Infancy, Death, the Afterlife of Spirit Baby. This is part 2. I love this beautiful quote. Imagine what this grieving space does for an individual facing loss. It grants profound permission to enter a place of sorrow, to work with it, to explore its contours and textures, to become familiar with the landscape of loss. Francis Weller, The Wild Edge of Sorrow, Rituals of Renewal and the Sacred Work of Grief. And that's his book. And I always, if you've worked with me, like, oh, Kelly's talked about Francis Weller. This is the book to get. And I have highlighted a lot of this copy and how I best explain it. It is like soul psychology. It is poetic. It talks about world grief, all kinds of grief, because it's not just the grief of loss of time and people, and people's a big one, right? Losing our loved ones is huge, but it's also grief comes through the loss of not having something, and the suffering in the body, the grief of sickness. Like, there's so many different pieces to that. And I really feel the expansiveness of that. And his book, it's a must read. It's a must read. Of course, I had to include him in this, and I will include more of him in my future book around grief and death. Maybe I should say that now, since I just like teased you out with that. So I'm barely just started another book, and it's all going to be, I don't know the title yet, The Afterlife of Spirit Baby and the Children of Light. It's going to be death specific, loss specific, grief specific, ritual specific, ceremonial specific, and mediumship therapy, working with a deeper kind of internal inquiry to work with your child of light in a way that can give meaning and purpose and heal parts of your life to move forward in. And probably some stories. I have some beautiful stories to share, and we'll see if others will want to be a part of these stories. Hold some good energy for that. And I know everything has its most aligned timing, and it'll come through. I'm going to read now that chapter 10. A light child boy shared the most beautiful energy with me for his mother. I feel he wants others to understand and sit with that insight. His mother wanted this to be shared with you. He left his earth body at 2 years old. I will call him Nova. He shares many messages. Nova is a child of light and wants his mother and everyone to know that when your spirit child sends you a message of a living creature like animals, insects, or other, it is not a random sign, but more of a message of life. That your child is creating a way to feel her or his energy through that life force. In our world, we easily connect with the living force that embodies spirit. So when you see that creature, please understand your child is affecting its cellular body and conscious spirit in order to touch you with the energy of life, remembrance, and healing. It is time to awaken more to the infinite self. So when an animal or insect comes into your life, be open to feeling, receiving, sensing, and trusting this wise message or messages. Your child of light communicates with you probably more than you may recognize. Open up your empathic channels, accept your psychic self, and use your telepathic energies. They exist, and it is a serious path of truth, love, and spirit. And in these bold, I'm going to read you the bold letters, and there's more to read in there. Forever a baby, spiritual communication, your heart bonded with the soul of your child. Just share about birth loss, stillbirth specifically. What is a child of light? What happens after a stillbirth and infancy death with a spirit baby and parents? And just, I have questions here, questions I've been asked over the years. Why did my baby die? Is my baby okay? Did I do something wrong? Did I not love them enough? Will my baby come back? Is it some spiritual agreement? And of course, I have that bold question, why did my baby die? And you're gonna have to read and see, well, what did I come up with? What is this conversation really? Is my child okay? Did I do something wrong? Did I not love them enough? Will my child come back? Is this some spiritual agreement? And you will see many different things in there, a little bit of story. And in the earlier chapters, there is some lost stories that are real stories that were confirmed, that were allowed to be shared. And in the end chapter, you have Spirit Baby Communication Practice, Child of Light, Meditation, and you can read it out, and also QR code, web link, so you get a direct link to it, and you can explore your connection with baby being. And so far, I'm getting positive feedback that it feels really good and encouraging, and that there's experiences that you are connecting with your child of light, you are connecting with your spirit baby. Your story is your own. There is no predestined cutout story that you are showing up in this life in reality. You are a creative force, you are strong and infinite. And I want to remind you, wherever you are, if you're in that grief space, loss of time and infertility, maybe the journey feels like a death. I want you to know that you can rebirth those parts of yourself. Your heart is an active, live frequency of light. You are here, and your body are working together. Hold yourself today in tenderness and love if you had miscarriage, stillbirth, infancy loss. Really allowing yourself to look at, what are you doing today? Who are you? Who are you becoming? And what kind of memory do you want to hold for your child? Do you want to do an honoring, a ritual? Be creative. You are creative, and see what comes, see what calls to the journey for who you are. Keep exploring your connection with communication, your natural instinctual connection to communicate. Again, I send you so much love if this is your connection of loss, but if you're in the throes of grief, I feel you, I see you, I know you. I'm sending and holding love for that path forward for you. I'm here, and come stay a while. Connect with the Afterlife of Spirit Baby Facebook group. Come visit me at Spirit Baby Medium on Instagram. Come in the Mighty Networks. It's not a very active group now. It's being reinvented. The motherhood to mediumship to motherhood, a space of resource, connection, conversation. Actually, that group's going to change. So we're going to make it different, where there's more intimacy and connection with membership. And for now, it's free, but things will shift and change. I know over the next months can be really hard, challenging times with holiday. And again, just take it slow, connect. I'm going to come out there and share a deeper conversation with others within the law space to give what we'll call it a holiday gift to those that are seeking in need, that just want to feel a sense of connection again, to feel quote unquote normal, to know that love is bound, love is here, love is infinite. And so I want to thank you for joining Grieving with the Wise Heart, Miscarriage, Stillbirth, and Infancy Loss. And you can find my book, Notes from a Spirit Baby Medium, everything you need to know about spirit baby communication, on Amazon, Ingram Sparks, and Barnes & Noble, as well as I just currently put it, if you don't have a Kindle, you can get an ebook. It has a paperback book, but I now have it on as a PDF on my website, and it is the price of the Kindle, and you can get it direct, because I know personally I don't have a Kindle, which is really hard because there's a lot of books I want to read. And I can't, not that I have much time to anyways. I feel like I'm always in the channels of the earth energies and listening to the world, but PDF is also available, and you can find that at newearthchildren.com. And come stay connected, get your book, get your meditations in that book, and find where the path is before you. All right, much love. Thank you for joining Spirit Baby Radio with your host, me, Kelly Meehan. Please join my community and stay in touch with monthly energy rants, Spirit Baby poetry, and get access to Spirit Baby 101 with tips and practices at my newsletter at newearthchildren.com. And join me on Instagram with lives at Spirit Baby Medium, and join the Mighty Networks, the Spirit Baby Collective membership, and Motherhood to Mediumship. Remember, you are the heart that holds communication, and it is your time to connect. Come share in the great shift of your mind and the true spirit of your heart with Spirit Baby Communication.